Welcome back. Well, after 22 days, 2,008 miles, we're almost there. The spotlight tonight on the two best riders in the world, Laurent Fignon and Greg LeMond. LeMond is through the halfway stage on his time trial into Paris in the fastest time today, 20 seconds better than anybody else. Robert Miller, incidentally, has finished in a time of 30 minutes and 2 seconds. That's well outside Sean Kelly's time. Laurent Fignon is on the road, and we're going to stay with it now to the finish. Let's go back to Paris. Here's Phil.
And now we go back to the rider in yellow, and that is Laurent Fignon.
Well, Phil, at the moment we've got Fignon's time coming through. It's just been confirmed as well, 21 seconds behind Greg LeMond at the first 11 kilometres point. Well, that is really bad because at the moment at half distance, Fignon he's lost half his lead on the LeMond at the moment. When we come to the finish, if he can't pull something back, it's going to be very close when we get to the line.
Paul, we are looking now at a Tour de France that will be decided by 6 or 7 seconds. I can't believe that as I say it, but we must now be looking at a Tour de France that will be decided one way or the other by 6 or 7 seconds today. Greg LeMond is riding for his life here, and whichever one of these two men loses the Tour de France today, they're going to sit at home tonight and watch these pictures and not believe what they are seeing. Both riders worthy of winning the Tour, and if we'd have said at the start in Luxembourg that, by the way, lads, it'll be just 6 seconds in Paris, they would have said we were mad.
Well, it's really unbelievable. I'm sorry about that, Phil, but there's another time check coming through here that's 24 seconds behind for Laurent Fignon at the moment, and you can almost see the difference in the speed by Greg LeMond. If you look at the difference in style, LeMond is well placed on his bike. Fignon's rocking his shoulders a little bit, suffering to get those gears round. There is the Eiffel Tower. That's what Laurent Fignon would normally be celebrating to see when he comes over in a bunch, but today the Tour de France isn't over. He doesn't finish in the bunch. He's got to keep going to try and make sure he can keep that 50 seconds lead he started the stage with, and it's really going to be very close at the finish, Phil.
Fignon must have known today he would lose in time to Greg LeMond. The biggest question was, by how much would he lose? Back on to the banks of the River Seine, the Eiffel Tower is now looming large on the right shoulder of Laurent Fignon. Touch and go for this man, whether he finishes in yellow today. The last time deficit, 24 seconds. Greg LeMond is 27 seconds away from winning this Tour de France. That's what it means. Or if you look at it the other way, Laurent Fignon is 27 seconds away from losing the Tour de France. We're already now inside the closest tour in history, because that until today was in the favour of the Dutchman Jan Janssen in 1968, when he was winning the Tour de France by 38 seconds.
You can almost see the difference in the speed, Phil. It's incredible to watch LeMond here because the top half of his body is hardly moving at all. There's just that little twitch when his head goes down to get himself into that aerodynamic position. He picks his head back up again to look where he's going, and the power that's coming out of his back and out of the top of his thighs must be incredible when you think that this man has still got 67 pellets in his back from that shooting accident.
Well, if only Greg LeMond hadn't cracked 4 kilometres from the summit of Alpe d'Huez, and instead he cracked 3 kilometres from the top, because that could be the difference now for him from winning and losing this Tour de France, as Laurent Fignon, who has become the real competitor, the man who kept on returning from being beaten to snatch back the lead in this year's race, now he's fighting to try and win it for Paris and himself. Only one man has ever come back and won the Tour de France with such a big gap between his last victory and Fignon's victory was 1983-1984. 5 years, and the only other rider to ever come back and repeat the victory was Philippe Thys of Belgium, and he had to take time out for the simple matter of a world war. Greg LeMond now coming away from the Seine. Shortly he'll be joining us on the Champs-Élysées. The two men who have made this such a memorable Tour de France. 29 seconds, Paul. Greg LeMond could still do it.
Well, Phil, it looks like it's going to be even decided actually on the Champs-Élysées, because the little climb from the Place de la Concorde up to the bottom of the Arc de Triomphe is one of the hardest roads in the world when you've come this far, and it could well be that the 20 seconds that now that Laurent Fignon holds in a lead over Laurent Fignon, that could just go away.
But here's the battle as all of the time now. The yellow jersey of the Tour de France is slowing down. The ripples towards the end are proving to be possibly the watershed of Laurent Fignon, because the last check it was 29 seconds down. So 21 seconds now is all that is different between these two riders. Greg LeMond is heading up towards the Champs-Élysées, where in the Tuileries 32 seconds is now the time gap. 28 seconds, 18 little seconds, Paul, is what he's got to do on the Champs-Élysées.
Oh, Phil, this is just going to finish on the climb up to the Champs-Élysées, and that, if one rider or the other cracks, is where the Tour de France this year is going to be won or lost. Greg's got 4 kilometres to go to try and take back 18 seconds on Laurent Fignon, and on that climb up there, it is just so possible, I can hardly believe it.
Now the cheers. Greg LeMond is on the Champs-Élysées, not far behind Pedro Delgado, in fact, and the gap is 35 seconds ahead of Laurent Fignon.
Well, it's 35 seconds, Phil, and LeMond seems to be going away all the time. If Fignon can come back, he's always been renowned for his comebacks in time trials, but he doesn't really seem to have that fluidity in his pedalling action that Greg LeMond seems to have in the front. It's going to finish on this last descent down into the Champs-Élysées. I really don't know which way to bet at the moment, Phil.
Paul, there is 3 kilometres to go for Greg LeMond. We are going to say that the very last half mile of this year's Tour de France will decide who will wear the final yellow jersey. You cannot bring the race to a finer finish than that, and you could never script it in 100 years. Greg LeMond is going uphill, and it may be the uphill ride here that will push Laurent Fignon away from the lead.
Phil, this has been a historic Tour de France in the start. I mean, the guy who won last year, he made a mistake and he missed the start. Now the change has changed. The lead has changed between Greg LeMond and Fignon so many times, and now it looks as if the Tour was over. 50 seconds looks too much, and now it looks like Greg LeMond might even do it and snatch victory from Laurent Fignon underneath the shadow of the Arc de Triomphe.
I suppose it had to happen this way when when LeMond got the lead. He got it by 5 seconds from Laurent Fignon. Then on the climb up to Super Bagnères, Fignon attacked LeMond almost in sight of the flag, and he took the yellow jersey by 7 seconds. Then back came Greg LeMond again on the climb at Orsières-Merlet, and now we have Fignon back in yellow, and it's now down again to around 15 seconds, the difference between these two men. Very shortly, Laurent Fignon will join us on the Champs-Élysées. He will get one enormous cheer, as did Pedro Delgado. It went up a couple of decibels for Greg LeMond. It's going to be even louder for Laurent Fignon.
Well, look how hard it is. You see now that he's coming up to the turn, you can see he's really suffering, Greg. This is the last part of the Tour de France for him. He's got to empty everything he's got out of himself. He'll go around that top corner, and hopefully those bars of his will help him a little bit. The other side of the road there, he's nearly caught Pedro Delgado. He's only about 25